bought a 1973 MGB. This is not my first MG. I bought a 1970 MGB a few weeks ago, and that is parked just on the other side of that garage door, out covered in snow. I started working on it, but all of the bottom edge, all of the rocker panel, the pinch weld was all rusted out. On the one outside, I could reach down, grab a chunk of it and tear it right off, no problem at all. I found this one, and I won't say prices, but I bought it from the lady. Unfortunately, I think they had gone through a divorce. I bought it from her for a very low price. I was thinking it would be just a parts car. Turns out it's the much more solid vehicle. They jumped the title, so the title was never in either of their names. I have a title on it from the previous owner prior to them. This car is going to be getting a Weber carburetor. This is not an actual Weber carburetor. This is a company that makes a replica of a Weber carburetor or uses the specs to make the Weber style carburetor. Apparently this is an upgrade. The company is, I want to say it's Redline. Something like Redline. Yeah, I mean, the air filter is Redline. I believe the carburetor is as well. But you have to buy it with this special intake, because you're switching from a double SU carb to a single Weber. Like I say, is an upgrade. It's also a 2-barrel. This one has a little gas in it. It was actually on the car that's out, parked on the other side of that garage door, which now is going to be my parts car. Some of the parts on that car are better, such as the seats and stuff. But anyhow, so I'm pulling the old double SU carbs off of this, like I had on the previous one, and I'll be putting this on. It's a lot easier to do this when you have already seen the parts, seen where the bolts are, seen where the nuts are, done it once. So you get to see it on the second try. Now, you can buy a supercharger for these cars. Of course, you're talking thousands. You can buy a supercharger for these cars that isn't made to make them a race car, just simply made to make them quicker, better at passing. You can buy those all on Moss Motors. Moss Motors is kind of the, of course they're getting free advertisement here, but they're kind of like the go-to for these old British cars, the MGs and whatnot, all eras of the MG. I know years ago I had a Porsche 924, and Pelican Parts. Pelican Parts was the go-to. I mean, they had everything for the old Porsches. But this one, with these, you want parts, you got to go to Moss Motors. But when you buy the supercharger through Moss Motors, they actually, I believe that you rejet it, but you only use one of these SU carbs on the backside of the supercharger. That would be cool to have the supercharger. And I'm not a purist. I'm not looking for this to be a race car. I'm not going to put a wide body kit or try to make some sort of goofy wide body kit on it or anything like that. I want it to look like the original from the outside. Some want these to look like the original from all angles. When you open open the trunk, they want it to look like an original car. That I don't care. I want the original engine, but I'll do things. I have no problem doing things that'll make it perform better. I know they make a Holley Sniper fuel injection unit that you can put on, like the Chevys, the old Chevys and whatnot, on an old Chevy Camaro, for instance. I'm not certain if they make if Holley makes anything that would replace, be as though it was one of these carbs. But that would be cool. That would be cool to get that low. The boost on that supercharger is only about 8 pounds, I think, something like that. It's just low boost, but it just makes the car a little more usable. But it would be cool to instead of using a single SU carburetor, to put a fuel injection unit on that. There's another company that makes fuel injection units too. I can't think of their name right now, but yeah, Holley Sniper is probably the big one, especially in the Chevy world. I got a couple of young grandkids, so they live about 6 blocks that way. And they're over here often. So I don't get every chance that I want to work on a vehicle. These first couple of nuts that are on here are a little finicky. They're located pretty much right behind these SU carburetors. So you got to be able to get your fingers on them. The 1970 has a prop that tips down and locks into a little bracket on the side, on that side of the hood, which was a lot easier than having this one here, right where you need to work primarily, especially for doing the carbs. It'll be a lot easier when I put the spark plugs in. What I did though, I pulled the plugs on this already, and in each opening I put a little bit of seafoam, or a decent amount of seafoam, as well as some old motorcycle, not old oil, but new oil, but for older motorcycles. I had a Suzuki that took a heavier oil. Anyhow, I put some oil in there as well. A lot of guys use ATF, some automatic transmission fluid. That works well too. The idea is just to soak those rings down, get a little coating on the walls of the cylinders. You're going to want to blast that out by turning the engine over prior to putting your plugs back in, or you're going to have a serious problem. I don't know how serious it would be, but it wouldn't be a good idea to have oil and seafoam just sitting around in those. You probably would never get the engine to start, and you might have some issues with compression. The idea is for me to totally restore this. I'd like to pull it apart. I have a good friend of mine. He's He's a retired auto body technician. Is that what you'd say? He's done some pretty cool work. Yeah, built I think it's a '69 Ford Bronco for his daughter, and pretty sharp looking. He did a full, frame, body off the frame, redid the frame. This has more of a, this is not a, I don't believe it's what you'd call a body on frame vehicle. It's the frame is kind of part of the rocker panels and all that are kind of all part of the frame on this vehicle, so that might have been kind of advanced for a 1973. Well, the 1970 is also the same. But you got to have patience. And you got to have time. You got to have the time to have patience. You need about 3 hands on average for any of these tasks. It's always a bonus if you pick the right size wrench. You know, they come with a whole bunch of numbers on them. Turns out they're not all-purpose. There we go. I might be pulling this cable off. You ever buy something and they come with these cheap little wrenches that you can use to put it together with? Save those. They work really well for getting into tighter spots. Whereas, I'll fix that later. Whereas regular wrenches are wider. They won't fit in between. Right now I'm trying to loosen the clamp for the cable for the throttle. But so there's some differences I've noticed between the two vehicles. The 3 years, it makes a difference. There's one of the differences I'm seeing right now is the 1970 just had 2 hoses that came off. They were bent steel, kind of like brake lines, but they came off and they went down, and they just terminated below the engine. They were kind of like an overflow, like a motorcycle would have. But this one's different than the 1970. It's a little more advanced in that way, I guess. Instead of just dumping, potentially unused fuel right underneath the vehicle, you could have a real James Bond thing going on there, if you flick a lit match behind you or something. I don't think anyone's going to be chasing me in this thing that wouldn't be able to catch up. So I'm going to disconnect those. It's amazing how old all these little pieces of rubber hose get. Yeah, that doesn't want to loosen. I have no reservations in just cutting. Oh, well, or if it just slides right off. No, we won't need that. This is that return line. So here's the SU carbs. These are the ones coming out. I've removed some of the, this is the fuel line. I don't believe this gets hooked up on the Weber carb, but yeah, this is just about ready to come out. Once the carburetors are out, there is intake manifold that comes off as well. This has the vacuum advance hooked up right here. That hooks right to the distributor cap via this little part right there. Yeah, so I'll be removing those, and I'll get that intake manifold off, and I'll show you what it looks like at that point. These are the air boxes, or for the air filters. There's two of them, one for each carb. They kind of sit where those arms go the opposite direction, and each of them contains a conical air filter, which won't be needed. So I believe it's about to come out here. Yep. Here is the twin carbs. Like I say, even with apparently with the supercharger that you can put on here on these cars, you just would rejet one of these, and it's got provides plenty of fuel. These are not big cars. You get a couple of guys and you can pick up the back end and move this car around. Yeah, they're not a heavy car. It has a 1.8 liter engine in them. That's not bad, actually. I think that's a pretty decent size engine. Like I say, it doesn't have a lot of it's not a high compression engine by any means, but it gets the car, moves the car around. Now I'll get this intake manifold off. It also has a heat shield that I gotta try to break free from this also. So yeah, I'll get that removed. Finding this one's a little bit different than the other as well. maybe not. On the other car, this heat shield just popped right off, and it looks like this one's kind of doing the same. Give it a little persuasion. These are different. Little spacers. There we go. Size. I like the method where you have every tool in your entire garage out laying around, so you know you don't lose them that way. You can pretty much find a tool from any standing point. Not sure if anybody wants these parts. You know, you take them off. I feel like I'm upgrading the vehicle by putting in a Weber carburetor. So you take off all these older parts, but there could be people who maybe want these. I don't know. Maybe put that in the notes if you want me to, if you want some of these parts. Like I said, I'm not a purist. I want this to run well because I want to jump in it, tool around, get my fix of grinding through the gears every now and then, and on a nice sunny day, probably never put the top up. The first 1970 out there, I also got that at a really low price. It came with a new vinyl top for it, so. Or new rag top, whatever they're made of, canvas. So that's kind of nice. I'll be able to put a new top on this. But like I say, that's for emergencies only. It's really the nicest, best of days that I'll drive this around. It's kind of a go-kart. Now I got to remove this intake manifold. To do that, you need to take the nuts off that are holding the exhaust manifold. The exhaust manifold on this is kind of interesting. There's 3 pipes coming out of the exhaust. Then in between those 3, there's the two intake ports for the intake manifold. So you got, in order to remove the intake, you pretty much have to totally remove the exhaust. And if it's the same as the other car, it will have a gasket that's all in one for all 5 openings. So it's exhaust, intake, exhaust, intake, exhaust. And these are, I think, a little harder to come by themselves. I think if you purchase a new exhaust manifold, like if you wanted a stainless steel one or whatnot for these, then you would get this with that exhaust manifold. But from what I've seen, I couldn't find where I could buy just this. I didn't do a whole lot of research and digging, but I didn't see where I could buy just the exhaust manifold, exhaust and intake manifold gasket. I got the family coming over. Last night we had game night, so I got some of the family coming over. We're gonna have another game night. Last night we played poker. Probably play poker again tonight. my son-in-law's brother, he was over, he went out to move his car. So we dealt the hand, but we set him up with a royal flush. And I don't think he even understood that he had a royal flush. It was kind of funny. I was off to the side videotaping it, and he was just oblivious to the fact that as we would turn each card, we were opening up, the one hand that nobody ever gets. I don't think he realized it. When you're working on these old vehicles, you come across, 3 bolts that come out easy, and then one, well, in this case it's nuts, and then one is rusted like crazy. You look at it, you think, what's going on here? Why is that the case? And honestly, there's guys that know exactly why all the things do what they do. However, I'm not that guy. I'm just the guy who wants a little sports car on the cheap. Just remember, you're not going to want to lose all of your hardware. These have a stud that goes into the head, and it gets rusted up. It's not actually a bolt. This is a stud with a nut on it. Gets rusted up, and it comes out like a bolt. In which case you might consider using bolts. I'll probably put the studs back in. Might get better, new nuts for it. Yep, there goes one. Like I say, 3 hands. Fortunately, I have hardware left over from the other vehicle. However, it would be nice to keep everything intact, because when I'm all done, that other vehicle is going to be a parts donor vehicle for this, in a lot of ways, for sure. But it also is probably going to have a lot of parts that I'll sell. That one came out like a bolt as well. However, it is also a stud. So there's a lot of rust going on. It had the time. On top of this intake manifold is a little teeny tiny fitting with the hose. I didn't spray this down, but oh, there it goes. But this hose is really tiny, and I believe it gets kind of brittle. It sits up here, gets plenty of heat, sitting, reaching over the top of the engine like this. And on the other car, this hose was broke. Well, that ruins your vacuum advance for sure. But anyhow, here's the intake manifold. This is where the SU carbs fit on, and here's where it attached to the intake ports. And you can see my dad was a truck driver, and he pretty much came home smelling like this every night. A little bit of diesel. This obviously is not a diesel, but a little bit of diesel fuel, burnt diesel fuel smell to him. You kind of creates a memory. I'm back. You probably didn't even know I was gone. All right, I got the old carb out, or the old carbs, and I got the intake manifold out. I've been taking the nuts off of these studs. There's a way of doing this that makes it a little bit easier. If you take a couple of nuts that, in this case, they're kind of narrower, so you can stack them up. You put one on, if it'll go on. Then you stack the other one on top of it. Then you could take a couple of 13s in this case. Twist them against each other. See that? Tighten them against each other. Now you've created something that'll hold this stud while you twist off the nut that's stuck. Make sure you put it in the vise, holding it with the top nut closest to the stuck one. All right, now that I have the nuts all off of all these studs, I'm going to clean them up on the wire wheel. Go, all cleaned up. I was gone for a little bit earlier, got something to eat, watched the Vikings start to lose. There's no doubt that they'll lose, you know. That's what happens when you root for a team like the Vikings. You got to be in it for the long haul. Well, at least I can get them started on there. That means they'll be good. Put these back in the head. I'm going to change the oil on this. I don't want to turn it over anymore with how much oil it has in it. Here's the dipstick. You can see the oil is right about there. It's supposed to be right about there. I'm gonna have to jack it up because these things are about that close to the ground. Barely any room for the jack to even lift. I'm going to do the safe thing and lift it way up in the air. All right, I got her up on some jack stands here. I believe the plug is like a 19. Suppose I should put a pan underneath. I think O'Reilly will take about 5 gallons at a time of oil to recycle. Well, I think I figured out why it was so full of oil. It had a visitor that was entertaining probably a gallon of radiator fluid. That's not good. I believe that means the head gasket is shot. So we're gonna have to replace that. I'm gonna have to direct my attention towards that issue. All right, we're back at it. It's gonna take time, like I said. Remember, I had dropped the oil out of this. It came out half oil, half radiator fluid. That's a bad sign. But it could indicate that there's a cracked block or a cracked head. I've removed the head, and I'm going to remove all the valves, clean it all up, look it over really well. I'm going to turn the engine over and look at the head and see if I see anything visible for cracks. It could be that the head gasket just blew and allowed all that fluid down. That's best case scenario, because I have a new head gasket as well as all the other gaskets. So that's the best case scenario, is that the head gasket just went bad. So I'm taking the valves out. I got a valve spring compressor, and kind of cleaning it all up a little bit, cleaning the valves up, and I'm marking them. This one's number 8. This is the first one I took out. This is number 8. It's going to go, closest to the cab. That's how I've got them numbered, 1 to 8. And you don't want to, from what I understand, you don't want to start mixing things around. Those valves seat where they're in the head where they're used to being, and we want to get a good seal again. I got a package, and I have a suspicion that it's something for a little MGB here. Let's see what came.
I ordered a blank key. Hopefully local hardware store can grind that for me. And I also ordered the electronic ignition for, hopefully, the correct one for this. It's the correct one for this year, but they did use some different distributors. So yeah, this is the kit to change it to electronic ignition, which from what I understand is a night and day difference. It fits under the same distributor cap, so you don't have to worry about it changing the look of the engine. I'm not super concerned with that. What I want is, when I'm done, a really good running engine. I don't want it to purr like a kitten. From what I understand, these engines have a really nice sound to them. I don't want it to sound different, but I want it to run well. So that's what I ordered. Oh, also got some catalogs for the MGB. You know, sometimes it's nice to have paper copy. Keep one in the bathroom. All right, so here is the head. I've removed one valve and its springs, and I'm going to continue to probably work from this side. So it'll be 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and so on. It's going to be a long process. Probably show you one on video. After that, I'll just go ahead and handle it. That way I can, you know, bang up my knuckles and hurt my fingers and snap something into my eye, and, you know, you don't have to hear my reaction to those things. So I bought the cheapest valve spring compressor that I could find. You know, I'm sure there's much better products out there, but it's a pretty simple process of just getting these set up so they can push these in. We're going to get the little retainer shims out of there. Okay. The first one I did kind of, you know, was really jammed up in there. I don't know if that's typical. Maybe it is. But I really cranked on it, and all of a sudden it popped loose and allowed me to remove those shims. So we'll see if that does the same thing here. Like that. There we go. These little shims are just kind of sitting in there, but they're, you know, they got oil on them. They're finicky. Get enough of a, like I said, there's probably a lot better valve spring compressors. This is the cheapest one I could find on Amazon. There's one of the little retainer shims and clips or whatever, what have you. I can get a hold of it. Here we go. Got it. And there's the other one. When they come together, you can see they kind of create a wedge that goes down into this little beveled washer, so to speak, but you know, part of the retainer clip. The retainer, it's probably called. So it's just a process. And then I'm, like I say, I'm putting them in individual baggies so that I put them all back in the same spot. Notice with this engine, it has, so this is the retainer, and it has these little beveled deals going there, and here is the valve. It's pretty, you know, gunked up, but I looked it up, and apparently I can clean them with a wire brush, and they should be fine. I'll probably reseat them. The kit I bought came with these tools for seating the valves. Grab them, put the seating compound in, the other way obviously, and seat the valve. So I'll do that as well as I'm putting the engine back together. But this has 2 springs. Another nice thing about taking it all apart, there was not a lot of miles on this. I'm not exactly certain what the miles are on this particular one, but you know, it's nice to take them apart, see if possibly these springs got broken. Oh, hey, we're back. Well, here's where I landed. I removed all the springs, all the valves, all the springs, and I started cleaning up with a wire wheel all of the surfaces that need to have the gaskets on them. This thing's pretty dirty. I'm surprised at how gunky it is. I'm of course going to clean it up enough to put a fresh coat of paint on here. I think I'm just going to paint it black. I believe that's the original was kind of like just a flat black. But I still got to clean out the ports and stuff. I don't know. I was thinking I would maybe get one of those little kits off the web where you can put them on your drill and clean, port and polish it, I suppose, is what they call it. I don't know if this is a candidate for a port and polish, but, might be a fun little project. But, yeah, so that's where I'm at with the head itself. Now, I think I'm going to pull the studs that are coming off of the block. I'm going to pull the whole engine, but I'll get some bolts to screw down into the block that are the same thread pattern as these studs, and we'll get a cherry picker in here and lift that out of there. I'm thinking I'm going to clean out, basically take everything out of the engine bay. I might paint this petition black as well, but clean up and paint the entire inside of the vehicle the teal color, one of the original colors. This vehicle was originally burgundy, and you can kind of see where they had sanded on it over here. You can see some of the burgundy coming through, or maroon. I believe they called it maroon. And someone painted it purple. Not an original color that I know of. So I would like to paint it original, but I don't want a maroon car. I want a teal car. And actually, you might like this. And if anyone from Europe is watching this, they might think this is kind of a cool thing. But here's the carpet. I'm a floor installer. Here's the carpet that I have set aside to carpet the inside with. So this is a woven wool carpet. And so it's a really dense wool carpet, and it's a woven back, very high quality carpet. But this is what it looks like. And I thought, tell me if that doesn't look British. Irish, maybe Scottish, more Scottish, but it'll have a nice British look to it, I believe. And if I go with the tan interior and the teal in the original teal blue, it's really gonna look nice with that. In fact, I have a piece of leather that isn't an actual sample of the leather interior, but really close to what a tan leather interior would be. I believe that would look pretty sharp with the vehicle in teal. So, getting back to what I'm going to plan to do. So I'm planning to pull the engine, which I'm going to rebuild anyhow. I ordered a little bit more aggressive camshaft. Comes with new springs and a few other parts, but a little bit more aggressive camshaft brings this engine up to more drivable for modern day. I mean, before I think these things max out at like 65 miles an hour, something pretty low. But yeah, so I'm looking to rebuild the engine, so I might as well just pull the rest of the electronics out, or, the rest of the electrical and the radiator, and just clean up this engine bay and just paint it the color that the car is going to be before I put that engine back down in there. So now to pull those studs, I need to find the right bolts. I was using, or the right nuts. I used these, back them against each other. I can show you how to do that. These were for the thermostat and the intake / exhaust manifold. It's a mixed, set here with one gasket. But I don't believe these are the right size no, they are not the correct size for these studs. These here are, I'll show you what I did though. I pulled all those springs and all the valves, and I marked them 1 through 8. Here's number 4, the springs, the retainers, the valve. I cleaned the valves up with wire brush. Actually, I cleaned them on the wire wheel. You can get a little bit aggressive with them as long as you're not sticking them on a grinder. You're just cleaning them on the wire wheel. Plus, I intend to reseat all these valves prior when I rebuild the engine. So I marked all those things. There's the manifold studs. Yep, there's the thermostat. So anyhow, I have all this stuff set aside, trying to keep it as organized as possible. I don't want to lose track of hardware. So now I will figure out what I need for a socket, because the the little DeWalt impact driver. Makes quick work of putting these on and off and on and off. So we're going to use a 15 millimeter. So now my wrenches, I'll have to change those up. Switch to 15s instead of 13s was the other I was using here. Try to keep my tools somewhat organized, but I'm going to be honest with you, not my best, my strongest asset to keeping things organized. Nice thing too, it kind of cleans the threads up for you when you do this. Must not be the correct size. There we go. All right. So, probably want to take a picture, make sure you remember exactly what studs, because these are different heights. Depending on where they go through the head, you know, they're different heights, these studs are. So I'm just going to torque the two nuts just tight against each other. And I mean, I've kind of learned that you can just really go nuts. And then we'll see if we can get this to come out of here. Oh, see, even more. I need to torque them against each other even more, which is almost alarming how much you might be doing that. There we go. So there we go. There's the stud. It has has the two nuts and they're torqued against each other. I'm going to pull them with I'll put them in the vise to pull them apart. That way, see if my gun will take them apart. There's one. Drop this down in the vise. And like I said, kind of cleans up the threads a little bit as well. I'll clean these all up on the wire wheel as well. I may get another set. I don't think I need another set of these. These are pretty good. It's not like this is a super high compression engine. This is not a race car that I'm building. It's just pretty normal specs. I'm going to pull another one, but why don't you come in closer and look. All right, maybe you can see a little better now. These are the studs that I'm pulling. Just going to put one on, one nut on all the way down. Second nut. Take my 2 wrenches. And I'm telling you, you can really go to town going against these. Tightening them against each other. Then, oh, there's my number 12. Huh. I'll throw that over on the floor. Never to be seen again. All right, now I'm going to use the bottom one to start turning that stud out. Drop that down there. So there's a certain way let me start over. There's a certain way you're supposed to use a wrench. You notice that there's a taller end and there's a shorter end. And you always want to turn if you can. Now sometimes you flip this around, you can get a little better position, a little better angle, if you're underneath. But you have no room hardly to get onto a nut, you might or a bolt, you might switch it around. But typically you torque against this shorter part. Longer part is the follower. So if you look really closely, you're going to turn this way. If it's the other way, you're turning that way. That way, it's just a physics thing. And somewhere along the line, that's why wrenches aren't just a regular U shape that faces straight up where everything's symmetrical. There's a method behind their madness. I can't manage to hold on to the wrench. It's like my hands are all lubed up with something. I don't know what it is. There we go. Just plug out the second one out. So there we go. Now I'm going to pull these off, stick it in the vise and pull these off with my impact and get the rest of them pulled out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 7 more to pull. And like I say, I'll go get some bolts that are this pattern right here, this thread pattern, and then I will take a piece of chain and bolt in multiple spots with some washers. We'll do all this later. I'll show you it. And I will disconnect the engine on the mounts as well as to the transmission. That's what I intend to do, is separate the engine and the transmission. I know there's benefits to doing it another way, to keep the transmission on there. I just feel like I'll be able to get it out of here easier without the transmission on there. We'll see what kind of problem, what could go wrong, right? But anyhow, I'm going to get the rest of these pulled. broke this impact. I did some nice metal art with it prior to it just shearing off. What a deal. And there's the other part. Yikes. Probably just a little super glue will fix that. When I do that, I start running out of tools. There's another one. I'm not going to put that much torque on it anymore. Grab my big wrench. See if I can get a good grip on it with this. Again, one side's bigger, the other side is meant to pry against. So the way you're looking at it, it would go like that. Or if you were looking at it this way, you want to turn that way. There she goes. It just needed the right style of manipulation. If they're cut out for working on vehicles or getting an old vehicle as a project. Well, I gotta tell you, if you're afraid that your hands are gonna look like this if you work on an old vehicle, well then, just wear gloves. There's the last one. As always, the last one is, the one where you're wondering if it'll ever even come off. Now I'm going to clean them all up on the wire wheel.
so here's the deal. If you're watching me do this, it ended up on YouTube. That would be the first video I ever put on YouTube. The reason is, I like watching guys work on things, work on vehicles, work on projects. It's relaxing, kind of enjoyable. So I hope that some of you out there like watching this. If you do, make sure you do the free stuff that all the video guys ask for, all the YouTubers ask for. Do the thumbs up, do the definitely subscribe. Those things help me to know that maybe you want more videos. Let me know in the notes what you think and what your ideas are for restoring this old car. I'm not a professional mechanic. I've done a lot of. I'm a floor installer. I've done a lot of different things with vehicles. I've rebuilt some motorcycles and that, but by no means professional. So if you want to put anything hateful in the notes, it'll be lost on me. Feel free to put things in the notes, though. I will try to read them, and I will try to do what's best for this old Brit.